Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, everyone, everywhere, depending on where and when you are joining us. Well, it is currently a beautiful sunny day outside my door. About an hour ago, it was dark and raining, but now the sun is out again. What's it looking like outside your door? This month, we have had some exciting topics. Last week, we talked about civic duty. What is our responsibility in society? This week, we're going to continue on that conversation and we're going to talk about the servant leader or the servant leadership. What's that all about? Who is that? Who is a servant leader? What is their responsibility? Is that you? Or is it your neighbor? Is it all of us? Let's dive into our conversation. We're so excited we have our guest speaker with us this afternoon. But before we go there, I want to welcome you all to Africa Online TV. And we're going to turn it over right now to my co host for the editorial of the day. Professor Nielsen, how are you today? And what's it looking like in your neck of the woods?
Fine, thank you. My neck of the woods, 90 degrees as at this time. We're in full summer gear and we are just hoping that the evening rain will not rain this evening because it may disrupt a few things. But all the same, we are happy to be here and to have everyone joining or everyone joined, and it is a pleasure. It is July 20th, 2025. It is, can you imagine, the 201 days of 2025. 201 days are going by so fast, so quickly. There are then 164 days left until the end of 2025. That is the 29th Sunday in 2025 on the 30th week if we use United States Standard Week number counting. That said, today is the 31st day of summer, Ambassador Lisa. So we have just 64 days to go before we get into fall, if we're North America, or autumn, if we're in Europe. Those would be 64 days of a national summer pastime, the love for ice cream. Ambassador Lisa, I saw your post, and I know that you enjoy ice cream on this day. Yes, it is National Ice Cream Day in the United States of America. And back in 1984, that's when President Ronald Reagan made it official, declaring ice cream a, quote, nutritious and wholesome food, unquote, and giving it a day and a month to shine. So today is National Ice Cream Day in the United States. While people in this country relish the treat, from beyond the oceans, we join the people of Colombia in their Independence Day celebrations. It is their National Independence Day today. And we say, Happy Independence Day, Happy National Day to the people of Colombia. We should also evoke one other historical fact. Former South African President Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918. And we may not be on July 18, but that was 2 days ago. And so in 2006, the United Nations declared July 18 Nelson Mandela International Day in recognition of his contribution to the struggle for democracy internationally and the promotion of a culture of peace throughout the world. This is an honor to one of his last dying wishes, quote, do what you can with what you have where you are, end of quote. On Mandela Day, therefore, this 2 days ago, July 18, people of the world are encouraged to dedicate 67 minutes to doing acts of good that will affect the lives of others positively. And why 67 minutes? Those 67 minutes are in recognition of the 67 years Nelson Mandela spent as a public servant. That is what we can now call a servant leader. July 18 may be 2 days ago, but we cannot fail doing something to honor the man we call Nelson Mandela. He exemplified servant leadership, which is our topic today, as we heard Ambassador Lisa tell us. But first, what exactly is leadership? Dictionaries, reference books, and experts tell us variously that, quote, Leadership is a set of mindsets and behaviors that aligns people in a collective direction, enables them to work together and accomplish shared goals, and helps them adjust to changing environments. This, one may add, implies that all leaders, quote, to a certain degree, do the same thing, end of quote, whether we are talking about some executive officer, a sports coach, a school teacher, or a parish priest. Leadership is enabling others to accomplish something they cannot do on their own. But does this hold true for a servant leader? Who is a servant leader? A servant leader is not a title per se, but servant leadership is a leadership philosophy where the primary goal of the leader is to serve others. This, we are further told, is quote, an approach that prioritizes the growth and well-being of people and communities over the leader's own interests, emphasizing the importance of putting together others' needs first, not yours. Servant leaders interact with their team members as equals, earning authority naturally and fostering a collaborative environment. Robert K. Greenleaf, who developed this model, says that servant leadership, quote, is characterized by traits such as empathy, strong listening skills, and a commitment to creating a healthy work environment. That leadership philosophy is said to have skyrocketed, leading to conclusions that, quote, leadership is something you do and not something you are. It is a person's actions rather than their works, or rather than their words, job title, and whatever inspires and encourages commitment. Jesus Christ is the first person, if we can say, who taught leadership by washing his disciples' feet. He was teaching them what it means to be a leader. A leader does the smallest and the meanest of the things. At this point, I will therefore call on the chair of Africa Online Media Corporation, Reverend Palm, to come in, welcome our guests, welcome all of us, and get this show running. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nia Song. And on behalf of Africa Online Media Corporation, I want to welcome you, Nia Song, Ambassador Lisa, whom I've been missing. So today I decided to show my face. Hopefully she will not disappear again. I know she's a woman of many talents and many hearts. Excuse me, Dr. Crosslin, who's always here. And look at our brother, Dr. Abdoulaye Meng, the Senegalese servant leadership, who is a workaholic, the hardest working man in not show business, but in people's business. So I will let him introduce himself. He's our speaker for today. Dr. Meng may be new to Africa Online Media Corporation, but he's not new to Africa's Brain Bank or Africa's Brain Power. So I'll let him introduce himself, but I also want to welcome our viewers, those that are going to watch live on YouTube, and those that are going to be watching on Facebook. I have put the YouTube link on the chat box, so please copy it and share it with your networks. If you are not following us, follow us and like us. So I'm going to give the mic to Honorable Dr. Meng to introduce himself.
Thank you, Reverend Pam, and greeting everyone. The first thing I will have to say is that why did you invite me if you have such an eloquent and really adept, experienced servant leader that could have given this talk? I would have been on the other side, listening to him rather than speaking. And let me just at least...
That's the legendary, anybody who grew up in Cameroon, he's a trailblazer, a legendary journalist, and professor of journalism, who is retired, the illustrious and incomparable Mr. Asonglemfang Kemleke.
I would love to be just listening to him because he pretty much defined what the topic. Now, let me just get something out of the way. The one thing that I used to believe before I become a doctor, that every time they're in a room and they say such a person is a doctor, my assumption was this is the smartest person in the room. Now I'm the doctor, it's the other way around. I just realized that actually we are doctors because we don't know anything and that we want to learn. We want to research. We want to hear from other people. And therefore, we are just a perpetual student, just trying to search. Basically, my background also will little bit dictate why I'm interested in leadership. I'm originally from Senegal, West Africa, which is French speaking English, and my native language is Wolof. Therefore, you will be dealing with a mixture of three different accents. My native language, Wolof, that I know very well, my French, which is what I was trained, and my broken English. But the good news is not going to take too long. But basically, I came here about 30 years ago for the same reason that I was not comfortable with what I saw in my country growing up, seeing French people as our former colonizer that were in all sphere of government. They advised the president, they advised the minister, they advised the national agency, and they are also at our university and high school and primary. It didn't sit well with me that they were teaching us, and basically we still under their control. And for that reason, I said I wanted to go somewhere else where I can learn something different that perhaps one day can help change the fact that we're having this expat, that we, the Senegalese, we, the African, should be doing that work. That was why once I got my master in 1989, I just dated myself. In a long time ago, I was given a scholarship to go to France to do a PhD or to work for the government as or the private sector. But foolish I was, I decided I said I want to go to America. I remember telling my dad that I'm going to America. He asked me, "Do you know someone in America?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you speak English?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you have money?" I said, "No." He called my mom, said that your son is insane. But I said to him at the time, I do have family members in America. He said, "Family member?" He said, "Now I'm confused." Meaning, and ask my mom, "Am I really the dad? Is it have family member somewhere else?" And I said,
Oh my God, you almost got your mom in trouble.
but she's, it was teasing her. And I said, "African American are my family. And I know that I will be okay." And that's what convinced me to come to the United States. I went to University of Michigan, did my second master in economic applied economic international business, ended up working for General Motors as a market analyst before deciding in 2005 to go back to assist our president, Abdoulaye Wade. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way that we, the diaspora, are not always welcome. And after struggling, I ended up getting a job with USAID in Senegal, which also gave me some insight about truly what cooperative, what the donor are doing in the country. But basically, I came back and now I'm the Director General for the World Council of Mayors, which is a mayors organization trying to bridge a gap between African American mayors and African mayors. And I'm also part of the Helcom Training Center, which is I'm an executive coach. But Bref, there's nothing much to say. If I can share, I'll just go right to my presentation, if I'm allowed to share.
Oh yes, you should be able to share.
Okay.
There you go.
You may want to do it in bits and pieces and then give, oh my God, he even did a presentation for us. That's awesome.
Wow, that's good.
No, but, I think that the presentation has been already, summarized. Basically, when I did my dissertation, I have a doctor in organizational leadership, and my research was on servant leadership. What prompted me to write my first book is that after really looking at all the leadership model, then getting to understand servant leadership and what it can do, I asked myself, is servant leadership vital for entrepreneurial success? Can you be successful in an organization if the leader is not a servant leader? And then after this whole noise last year about DEI, I started to realize that maybe there's something missing. If this current leadership in the United States understand truly that DEI is nothing more than just cultural intelligence, and that cultural intelligence as a leader, if you are not comfortable, if you don't embrace diversity, inclusivity, the one thing that you do is that you reduce productivity. And I decided to write a second book, just basically highlighting the importance of cultural intelligence. And I keep telling people, do not use the word DEI if they don't like it. Just use cultural intelligence, because cultural intelligence is a fact. You do need that. And one proof is that the discussion that we had here in this country between our dear president and the president of Liberia is definitely an example. Has a lack of cultural intelligence can really pose diplomatic problem. And that's why I wrote the second book. But for today, I'm just going to go briefly. It's important always to remind about the fundamentals of leadership. And I talked about the popular leadership model to get to servant leadership. But ultimately, why I was doing all this exercise, going to do my dissertation, working, is just to have a better understanding of not just leadership in general, but effective leadership. Because as a leader, at the end of the day, all you care about is how can you be effective. Now, growing up in Africa and watching my dad, who was a commander in one of our elite units, and how he was respected. Everybody they salute him. As a young kid, he was my hero. And then I look at my mom when my dad went to different missions outside of the country, how she took over, working on the side, raising us, making sure that we do our, even that she couldn't read. All right. I saw that kind of leadership. Then I look at how my dad behaves in all the process. When they come to the house, he becomes so polite, doesn't make any decision. When the spiritual leaders come to the house, I see another side of my dad that really very obedient. And then I started to get confused. Truly, what is leadership? Is it power? And that's when I realized that leadership is really totally different. But ultimately, what I wanted to do, because I teach leadership, I always struggle to give a final kind of takeaway to the student when I look at leadership. You have so many models in leadership, so many approaches, so many theories that in the end, we are all confused. Which one do we use? You find a book on charismatic leadership and transformation leadership, on servant leadership. You have all this book about leadership. But ultimately, when it comes to leadership, I said in general, if you look at the classical theory of leadership, all it's going to tell you is basically, who's the leader in terms of their characteristic, personality. How do they behave? Give you the behavioral approach. And in which circumstances leadership is taking place. That basically those three combined give you the answer of leadership. Now, I didn't want to just talk about leadership based on assumption and based on my reading. I researched it. And when I was researching leadership, when I selected servant leadership, I was discouraged because at that time, servant leadership was not well understood for a long time. In the 70s, when Greenlee came up with the concept of servant leadership, when he said it came to me by intuition, not by a rational approach, the entire concept of servant leadership was dismissed. And they said that whatever you do as a scholar, if his intuition is not scholarly. But you and I know that intuition go a long way. Sometimes intuition is actually more powerful than rational approach. And recently there have been studies that have been done by surgeons that have demonstrated that when they look at the brain that we have in our head, they find out that looking at those neurons, you do have brain in our heart. And what they find out is those brain in our heart can sometimes be 5,000 times better, more accurate, quicker than the brain. I mean, sometimes when you feel something, you have an intuition. It's not just you are making a thing. It is very powerful. And we know the power of prayer. We know our prophets. And I'm glad that, our introductors mentioned that absolutely. If you're talking about servant leadership, it goes back to the Abrahamic religion and primary Christ. Now, when I did my study, I wanted to know basically the purpose, was to look at what is the relation between leadership and organizational health. Because my concept is that whatever you do as a leader is to make sure the organization is healthy, that people in your organization are healthy. And then I took what we call the low organizational leadership assessment. We should look at like 6 areas: shared leadership, valuing people, displaying authenticity, building community, developing people, and providing leadership. And when I did that study, and these are those 6 areas that we looked at in this assessment, which is a correlational study. It was a quantitative method, a correlational study, experiment rank correlation. And, the data, the finding, this is what I found. All I'm saying is that what I'm saying, I'm just not making up things. I wanted to understand truly, is there a relationship between what the leader does and how healthy is the organization? And a healthy organization means that people are committed, they're engaged, they're happy to be there, and that they are being innovative. Because it has been proven that if you're not happy, you cannot innovate. To be able to create it, our creative side with the neuroscience of leadership show that in order to be able to create, we have to be in a state of joy. Because if not, our neuron might be hijacked by our brain where we cannot perform. Here you see there's a great tough correlation, very close correlation between what the leader does and how the organization, the level of health of the organization. And just quickly, what the finding, about valuing people. And I will just tell you some of the very, some of my, the lowest description of the 6 area, from highest to lowest. You can see that if you look at the 3 last one, building community, it's among the lowest, but displaying authenticity. Most of those leaders were not displaying authenticity. And you will see later on why it is critical. Providing leadership. If you are the leader, that's your number 1 job. You are here to provide leadership, meaning, why do you lead? I will follow you because if I have a vision, you can foresee something I cannot see. I cannot follow someone that cannot see, that I can see more. A leader should see something couldn't see. If you take Nelson Mandela, what is achieved? That's true leadership. He was able to see and having the various steps to get there before people understand it. And therefore, I just want to turn off my phone. I realize that it's a distraction here. I'll just turn it off. But Mandela, when he said, follow me, I'll lead, it showed that you might be able to see further. You have foresight, something that we don't see, and you are leading the way. But if you look at in my study, they were not providing leadership. Worse, their lowest performance was they were not developing people. And you see, that's where we're facing is this organization. And if you're not developing people, you're not providing leadership, you're not displaying authenticity. Why is it critical? You realize that when we come to leadership, I always said there are 3 main ingredients for leadership. Having a vision, compelling vision people want to follow, but also being able to build trust. Because I will not follow someone that I don't trust. A leader builds, maintain, and grow trust. But most important, a leader must be able to motivate because you're asking people to do something difficult, something hard. And I will just go, for the interest of time. One thing that Richard Boertzi, in the neuroscience of leadership, he said that great leaders, what they do, they inspire through hope and vision, which Nelson Mandela did. They spread compassion through empathy and caring, which Nelson Mandela did. They are mindful, meaning they do understand what is going around them, tuned to mind, body, heart, and spirit. It's not just about, what you were saying, but because they have empathy, they can live and experience what you experience. They inspire others by creating and maintaining resonant relationship, which is different to when you are using coercion, which leads us to the importance of real role of power. As you can know that leaders, because you have legitimate power as a leader, you can use it. Or you can decide not to use it and use persuasion. Try to convince people to get them to voluntarily want to follow you, not being forced to follow you. That's why resonant information relation is very important. I was really taken when I heard Maya Angelou said, he said, it is by observation that in the future, they will not remember what you said. They will not remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. As leader, we know to understand that all we do is about emotion. You first need to be emotionally intelligent because the way you make people feel will always stay there. And, this is my contribution to the definition. Because I've seen so many different ways there's religious influence. But I said, yes, It is the ability to influence others. However, they must voluntarily want to do what you ask them to do, not just because of you what you want, but to achieve a common purpose, but not just for that group. If that common purpose is not for greater good, for me, it's not leadership. This is why in my definition, I want to exclude people like Hitler or dictator that were able to influence many, many people. I'm not going to dwell on this relationship management. What they said, Peter Drucker is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right thing. This gives the illusion that, managers don't do the right thing. And leaders just do the right thing, but don't do it right. But no, what Peter Drucker was trying to tell us at the time is that as a leader, occasionally you need to be the leader, because if you look at the term leadership, the main word is lead, and lead is the movement. You're taking people somewhere. But if you look at the main word for management, it's main, which is to maintain. You maintain processes. Therefore, management is about maintaining processes system. But leadership is about leading people. That's the fundamental definition. But in the end, effective leader needs sometimes to perform as a manager. An effective manager needs sometimes to perform as a leader. These two are not exclusive, which has been given that illusion. And just to remind people that as a leader, we have to remember that leadership is a process. When you have the leader, you have the follower. We do know that. But do not forget about the context in which we are taking place. But what about the outcome? And keep in mind, the follower influences the leader, the same way the leader influences them. The context will influence the process. And the outcome, if you have better outcome, people are more motivated. Just to keep that in mind. And I will not come back to the vision and the trust. We already mentioned that. I'm just going to go back to the role of motivation. Leadership is first about having a vision. You're leading people somewhere, and people need to trust you to get there. But the question becomes, you need to motivate them. And motivation is so important. It's referred to the process by which a person effort, energized, direct, and sustained towards attaining goal. Just imagine what Nelson Mandela went through during such time of struggle. How was he able to motivate these people that were giving their life? How was he able to restrain them, knowing that this open barrel was not be the outcome they wanted? He was able to find a lot of resource. And that's what makes it so difficult. How do, as a leader, you can, anticipate, but also help people sustain them, give them, but the whole idea, giving people hope. So critical as a leader, because that's what sustained it in the end, And I'm not we all know about the hierarchy of need, all this theory. The one theory that I just wanted to emphasize is the husband two-factor theory. For a long time, we assumed that money, all those things are very tangible things, are very important for motivation. But it was until Herzberg did a study that he realized that, yes, there are some aspects, like what you call hygiene, that are just important for people for not being dissatisfied. But it doesn't mean they are satisfied. So for a long time, we thought that being not dissatisfied means you are satisfied. That if you pay this more money, they will do whatever you want. That was missing the point. Because people have as a factor, achievement, recognition, responsibility, the work itself, personal growth. Those are ideas that help somebody being satisfied. And that's what makes servant leaders so special. Because they have this individualized consideration, that connection, that empathy, that they understand that it is not about them, but it is about the follower. As Greenry said, how do you help them grow? How do you help them become healthier, more autonomous, to themselves become servant leaders? And that's what took them apart from anything else. I'm not going to waste a lot of time in terms of, we're just going to go back to, we already talked about the threat approach is who's the leader. You have all this theory about the threat approach. And you have the behavioral approach that for a long time thought that leaders are either people-oriented or production-oriented. That causes this dichotomy. But it was thanks to Blake and Merton, they realized as a leader, you must be very flexible. Occasionally, yes, you need to make sure that production is done, but also you need to spend time on people. That helps us understand that this is not too extreme, but it is something that go hands in hand. The threat was a contingency. We know that the leader is always affected. Nelson Mandela was the right leader at that time. That's the key, is how do you have the right leader with the right skill set, with the right attitude for what is required. Because you have to have a relationship with the leader and the members, but also there's a task structure, but also the position power. Those why the field contingency model help us better understand that. Then you look at Herschel and Blanchard, the situational approach. And keep in mind, Blanchard has been really influenced by Christ. All he's been doing in his leadership model, what you have here is understanding that you are leading people. When you hear situational leadership, it is not about the situation that you are in. It is the situation of your follower. What do you have in general? You have followers that are new to the job, are very insecure, don't know what they were doing. What do you need to do at that time? You need to direct them, tell them what to do. But you also have followers that know somehow to do something. But what do you do? But they're not very secure. You have to coach them. You have to be very directive, but also very supportive. But once they start knowing what they're doing, technically they adapt, they are comfortable. That's where you spend most of your time to be supportive. But the directive is a very low directive. But ultimately, if you have followers that now are confident, they know the work, they're motivated, why do you want to be on their way? You delegate and you empower them. That's why this model has been a very good model. That then you have the path goal approach to leadership. What they say? The leader define the goal, clarify the path, remove obstacle, then provide support. Mandela said, a leader is always in front when there's danger. But when it's time to celebrate, they're behind. Meaning that you are in front to look at, show the way, but then remove the obstacle for people to go through the path. And therefore, you sustain them. You are up front, you're in the middle, you're in the back. You know whatever is going. That's why this approach is very, I'm just going to quickly, why I mention all this leader. In the end, I just offer what I call a unified framework for effective leadership. But a leader needs to be authentic, ethical, self-awareness, self-regulation, understanding your emotion all the time, and being able to regulate your emotion to understand how you relate to other people to make sure that you do not demoralize, you do not discourage, you want to sustain. And that's where emotional intelligence goes a long way. The pillar, you have the leader, it has purpose. The purpose to sustain is passion. Behavior, his value guide his behavior. But he has values. The relationship, build the connectedness. But what makes them so powerful is that the self-discipline makes sure they're consistent. You know what to expect. But furthermore, what sets them apart is their heart. They are very compassionate. And when you talk about Christ, that's what we take away, compassion from the teaching of Christ. I'll tell always people, ethical leaders, they respect others. Because if you see a leader claiming a leader to be insulting others, calling names, know that they're missing the point of leadership. You respect others, but you serve them, but you show justice, but you manifest honesty. Because if you are not honest, you don't have integrity. When people discover who you are, they're gone. But ultimately, it's about building community. And, the transactional leadership is important in a sense that when you're leading people, you have sometimes to stand them, meaning you give someone a salary where they can take care of themselves. But the salary alone is not sufficient. Remember when I talk about being not dissatisfied does not mean that you are satisfied, which is critical because as a leader, we confuse those two. Now, a transformational leader understands that. And that's why he has these 4 eyes called idealized influence. We all agree that Nelson Mandela was an idealized influencer. You just listen to the man. Furthermore, he's an inspirational motivator. Listening to Nelson Mandela. But better yet, he did something very difficult in the context it was in with appetite. Understanding that you need to intellectually stimulate your followers for them to understand how do we strategize to get to our end. And understanding that the means do not justify the end. We should not be using, evil means trying to achieve a good end. The end has to be proper. That's why Some point, there's a lot of controversy, but he understands that. And how does he educate the people? But most importantly, Nelson Mandela had a very direct personal relationship with people around him, what we call individualized consideration. That's key for a servant leader. And then ultimately, if you helping someone to grow, to develop, to have the skills, what you can do ultimately, you share the leadership. Shared leadership makes sense in the sense that today, not one person can do everything. That's why you see a lot of research recently is talking about, we shouldn't be talking about chief executive officer, chief financier. What they're talking about, we should be having a different approach. First among equals. Having first among equal. I mean, we're all equal. But for that job, we will appoint someone to lead that in that phase. However, leadership should rotate around the group. That's what sustain and motivate others. That's why it's important as a leader, develop others. Therefore, you can delegate, you can share, because you want them to take your place. You want them not only to lead you and to lead as an organization. And that's why a servant leader, he doesn't care about their status. That's, this is what Greenleaf said, and I will try to wrap it up. He said the great leader is seen as servant first. And this simple fact is the key to his or her greatness. Because they are servant. They're not seeking for fame, for anything else. They just want to serve. And, he talked about that at the time, combining servant and leader might be, something dangerous. But because he said this at the bottom, that I did not get the notch of servant as leader from conscious logic. Rather, it came to me as an intuitive insight, as I contemplated Leo. And this is how he defined it. He said the best test is, do those who are served, they grow as people? Do they become, while being served, healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely to become servant themselves? And what is the effect? And this is something that many leadership models do not mention. What is the effect on the less privileged in society? Not in your organization, but will they benefit from it? Or at least will they not be harmed? If leaders today start to understand that what you do with your organization impact your community, it impacts the world, and they have the stewardship that we are all in it together. And because it goes back right to the Ubuntu principle about I am because we are. We are all interrelated. We are interconnected. If you look at the weather, what is happening here, Reverend Pam, you know what happened to Texas recently, all the flash flooding. We are responsible somehow. But if we understand that we human beings are related to the environment, we should do a better job in taking. And this is what Greenleaf was telling us. What is the effect on the least privileged in society? And let's make sure that whatever you do, they are not harmed. And, there's only through the work of, this is the work of Spears. He combined all the writing of Greenleaf and was able to come up with the 4 pillars. What sustains servant leadership is his service to others. That's all they do. And as you can say, that Christ said, the Son of Man didn't come to be but to serve. And as Reverend Pam said, that we agree that if somebody has coined the servant leadership, I would say that it originally came, from the teaching of Christ, but from also other prophets. Because I do know that in Islam, the Prophet Muhammad have said, Sayyid al-Hawmi Hadimuhum, whoever is serving the people is their leader. And it also being said that Moses has already been identified as the Hesi, meaning the compassion and the empathy. This is all very important criteria. But the thing is serving others. But holistic approach to work, meaning that you should not subject people to the work like machine. We are human beings. You have to make the work to be compatible with people, make sure the work is enjoyable, because people need to have fun, but you should not subject people to like machine. Promote a sense of community. It's not just about your organization, but mostly what servant leaders do, they share the power when it comes to decision making. They don't hold the Christ has a disciple. Prophet Muhammad also has his disciple. They all share power. Understanding that sharing power in decision making is critical. That's why when we have people being in power for many, many years, this is just the same. But absolutely, in the end, they came to realization that what set them apart is these 10 characteristics. They are good listeners. A servant leader always starts by listening, but they listen for everything. not just what you say. They listen for your body, for your tone, for your spirit, for your soul, because they try to connect. Empathy. They know how you feel. They live what you live. Healing. What healing? Is that we all understand that when you're serving someone, when you do something good, you are becoming whole. Because we are broken spirit. Doesn't matter how we put it. But by helping others, we are helping ourselves. That's the healing aspect of servant leaders, understanding how important to make whole again. But awareness, understanding at any time the set of the emotion, how the emotion affect them, and how they regulate that emotion to make sure that they build resonant relationship with other people. But also they do not use coercion. They always discuss with you persuasion. But what also is important as a servant leader, you have to come with something new. Nelson Mandela faced something that no one else had faced before. He needed to come something that worked for the people of South Africa. He needed to be able to conceptualize, to come up with a system, something new. Therefore, it required intelligence, then foresight. How do you project someone or a group to the future if you cannot see far? You need to be able to anticipate, look at all the various scenarios. If this happened, this is what we should be doing. You need to prepare and to anticipate and so stay fast. But you must be committed to the growth of others. Do what? Ultimately, to build community. And, this is what Russell said about the civil leadership, is that value lies at the core of any leadership. They shape cultures of leader, which in turn impact their activity and their decision-making. Behaviors, is lead arise from individual core belief. And this is why I'm such a big fan of servant leadership. And this is Robert Greenleaf that told us that. He said, in the case of servant leadership, a leader's motivation derives from core egalitarian belief that they are no better than those whom they lead. Look at Christ. Look at what he did, washing a human being feet.
Yeah, the deadest part of the body.
It's just so powerful. This egalitarian, when I listen to some of these leaders today, the tone they use, the way they talk to us, this assumption they are better than us, that they are here to save us. What they're forgetting, that leadership is people allowed you to lead them. They give you permission to lead them, and they can take it away anytime. This is not something that, and this is what Christ said. Instead, whoever want to become great among you must be servant. And whoever must be the first must be your slave, just as Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. It was Matthew. The same thing, I'm not going to go, but I will just finish by what someone that we all respect said in the end for servant leadership, Dr. Stephen Covey. When it's come to leadership, when it's come to anything has to humanity, he is the author of the habit for effective leader. He said, leaders are learning that this kind of empowerment, which his servant leadership represent, is one of the key principles that, based on practice, not talk, will be the deciding point between an organization enduring success or its eventual extension. That's what led me to believe that organizational success without leaders, without servant leadership is not possible. And based on everything I have said, I wanted to come up with something that people can use to apply all these various theory model approaches, something very practical that I use in my coaching. I started, and this led me to start with this approach of first principle. What first principle is teaching us is that whenever you're attacking a subject, you have to break it down to this fundamental truth. That's what Elon Musk did when he wanted, to build a rocket. Look at the first principle. Look at what is required. And when I look at the first principle for what is take to be an effective leader, I came to realization first, if you are not authentic, people will never follow you. You must be authentic. Someone can be something fresh, something new, something empowering, something compelling, original. Nobody want to copy. But once people start coming because of your originality, When they find you not ethical, they're gone. Therefore, you must be ethical to sustain that authenticity. But then the situational leadership, understanding what do my followers need? How do I sustain them? They're not all at the same level. How do I understand the new, the more experience, and how do I spend my time helping them grow, developing others, having others helping me? The situational leader about the situation of your people. But most important, leadership does not happen in a vacuum. There's always the contents, the contingency. What Nelson Mandela understood very well. That's what Barack Obama understood very well. That's what Martin Luther King understood very well. And that's what the prophet that was sent understood very well. Time. How do they tailor their message and their behavior to make sure that this compelling vision is accepted, to make sure they build trust, and to make sure they motivate. And the part called leadership, yes, once you are leading, you must show the way. But yes, transactional, of course, paying somebody fairly is a good thing, it's to send them, but it does not motivate them to do extraordinary things. That's why you need to be a transformational leader. As we said, the 4I, individualized influence, influential, motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration. That aspect is so critical. When people feel valued, when people feel respected, they will give you everything. But then you need to share the leadership. But all of that can only work if you have the posture of a servant. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doctor. And it's a pleasure.
Dr. Meng, you
having
just took us through an MBA program on leadership. That was, oh my goodness. So you are an authority. It's funny because for our STEM program, we have a 12 strand systemic mentoring program, and I was going to teach the 7 leadership strand. And then when Dr. Meng wrote his book, I didn't know that's what he did his doctorate on, his thesis on, a dissertation. I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to hand that over to him. Let's work for me. And he is graciously accepted to do this for our STEM program. That systemic strand won 2 US presidential awards, one from Bill Clinton and one from W. Bush, as the 10 strands systemic mentoring program of the Timbuktu Academy, founded by our board member, Dr. Diola Bagayoko, and his late wife. And after she passed away, the program was paused. So we've adopted it, and I added leadership to it and civic duties. And I am so grateful that Dr. Meng is going to be teaching that class. He is a coach, and Dr. Meng, that was powerful. So let's go to our anchors. I'm sure they have burning questions for you.
Before you said, I just want to say something. She's being very humble. But I tell you, I can touch the mind, but if she was teaching, she would touch the heart. That's the difference. She's the reverend. She goes for the heart. I go for the mind.
And we need all of that.
Yeah, and just for the record, Dr. Meng is a Muslim, but he recognizes Christ as a servant leader. I just want to make sure our viewers understand that. So over to you, Uncle.
Yeah, the prophetess, go ahead. Prophetess, you go first.
No, I was saying you were speaking before Reverend Pam started talking. She must didn't hear you. So go ahead with your thought.
Yeah, I was going to say to thank Doctor for his presentation, and to say, now that we understand some of the things that are required in this area, what can we do today to let leadership be at the service of the people rather than having the people be at the service of the leader? Because leaders today think that they are the beginning and the end of everything. Should they not put into practice some of these things that we're talking about, making sure that the people are part and parcel of whatever their goals are?
Yeah, if I just can comment on that, is there's this misconception that the leader, has the power. Now, in the case of servant leadership, Greenleaf really clarified it. He said, it is not the leaders that is the servant, but indeed it is the servant that is the leader. The servant is serving people, and then people recognize what's doing and give him permission to lead them. That's the entire difference.
That's exactly right. Touchdown.
And these people today, they have this misconception about power. What they don't realize that there are two forms of power. You have the personal position power and personal power. A position power, you are president, the country gives the right to make certain decisions. That's legitimate. That can be coercion. You can negatively prepare, and you can also reward people. People will do because you have that power. Now, the personal power is your reverence. Nelson Mandela didn't need. He will continue to influence people. Christ, reverend power. Martin Luther King, that power, no matter what, will continue. And you have expert power. People will seek your leadership if you're an expert. But guess what? This guy that the day they're no longer president, they're gone. No more power. They're powerless. This means they forgot that we give them permission and we can take it back. The illusion they have power, is that because they don't understand leadership. That's why as a servant, because you're not seeking for power, you are seeking to serve. That whole idea of serving others make you powerful. But again, remember, those three key ingredients, compelling vision, building trust, and motivated. How do you get it? You only get it through when people acknowledge that you are here to do what is best for them. Because trusting someone, saying that you're going to take chances. When you trust your wife, she can help you. That means you taking a chance. That's that notion of taking chance, is that whenever the leader started to behave differently, people start now wondering and questioning. That was the leadership. That's why the only way this is going to change is the people to understand that we have the power. We, the people, have the power, and we can take it anytime that we want. I'm not sure if I answer your question.
You did. Thank you very much. Ambassador?
Yes, Dr. Ning. There were a lot of charts, and I was trying to read, and you were skipping over some. But my question, real briefly, is especially with that last chart that you were showing, is there a test that you can take to determine the type of leader you are? And if so,
Yes.
what is that?
Yes, there are many leadership questionnaires. And I just show you one that I use for my research. And the lobe. And one thing that why I choose the lobe is that it is the only assessment in an organization that give the voice to three categories: the workforce, the middle management, and the leaders. And in the result, the only answer that matters is what the workforce is saying. And we see there's a chart that will show you what the highest level think, the middle and the lowest. And we said that these people that you've been leading, they're the one that can define. Yes, there are many questionnaires and that will allow you to do a test, to just see your leadership level. But the one thing is important whenever you're doing that is I tell people, just be sincere. Don't try because you want to know.
Right.
And the one thing that you're getting is that this area, you might be very strong in one area and weak in another area. If it's about developing people, then you know where you're going to focus. If you're about building community, you know where you're going to focus. It is about, displaying authenticity. The good thing is that understanding where you are. But there's what we call the 360-degree leadership assessment. What it does, you have the assessment, you go to people that you know, and you go to your peers. First, you start with people that you are leading. If people reporting to you, you give them the question and they will evaluate you. Then you go to people that are peers. They will evaluate you. And you go to people that are above you. Right. They will evaluate. That gives you a 360-degree evaluation. And, the key is to have a very honest discussion. It's always important to get people feedback because when you're leading people, they're the one that can tell you if you are effective or not. Don't make assumptions. Yes, they are model and I can always share it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. In all that he was saying, especially in the beginning part of the servant leader and who that's now. I believe you said that's not a title that is necessarily used, but I know that in the Methodist Church, that is a title. They are servant leaders. That's a title they carry. One of my closest friends is a servant leader at a church, and she is exactly that. You know, when we think about Reverend Pam, when you think about Ephesians, the scripture in Ephesians 4 that talks about the five gifts. Joe, so he gave some apostles, some prophets, some pastors, and teachers and evangelists for the perfecting of the body. That's what the servant leaders were. We're supposed to be perfecting the body, not lording over them, trying to make them serve us. We are there to pour into them so they can come up and be the leaders who will turn around and bring others behind them. Thank you again so much for that very in-depth, like Reverend Pam said, an MBA in the servant leader.
You
And
learned that in the MBA.
I was just thinking about his leadership style
Mhm.
in his teaching, and definitely want to see his books, and thinking about some of the other leadership tests that I've taken and conferences I've attended during my time when I was working. And I don't believe I've heard anything nowhere near close to any of this, the situational, the ethical. I don't
Mhm.
believe I've heard any of these terms being thrown around in any of the leadership trainings that our jobs have provided. I worked for the city, so this was very good, very informative as well. We
Good.
are
Thank you.
almost at the top of the hour. I'm trying to see. I think we have 4 minutes before we get to the top of the hour. We
Yeah.
want to welcome Reverend Gloria, Dr. Gloria, if you are there. We know that
Oh, sure. So
they,
first, since we only have 4 minutes, I just wanted to say thank you again, Her Excellency Ambassador Reverend Dr. Pam.
Ambassador Lisa, have you heard that? So many people have given me that title, so you better make sure that happens, because I don't have that. I'm an ambassador for Christ, but since everybody keeps calling me ambassador or whatever, you do something about that.
So I want to thank you for this platform, and Professor Nia San, and to you, Prophetess Lisa, and to the global audience, and to you, Dr. Ming. Um, A+, and you're very passionate about uh, leadership, which is awesome. So my question would be, my thought is, it works perfectly, like say in the boardroom or on a manufacturing company when they're producing widgets. Um, it also works like in the military, even in games. Um, Not so much on a person to person level. Um, I don't think, because there's no perfect person, and we all make mistakes. I think when you mention power, I think it's more perceived power, because once a person leaves the job, or when they accept the job, they accept the position because it has incentives. So it's perceived power. Would you elaborate on that? Thank you.
Yes, and actually, you pretty much answered the question. Is that I said earlier that it's a perception they have power, but what they don't realize is that it is people that temporarily give them permission to
Mhm.
lead them, and those people can take it away anytime. That means if you are thinking, that's why I said position power is very weak power. And the other thing that I will add to that, every time you use position power, legitimate, reward power, coercion, what is revealed? A weakness. Whenever you use that, you are highlighting your weaknesses. Because if you are strong, you don't need to borrow power. Using position power is borrowing power. You borrow it because you have just showcases your weaknesses. There's a situation you cannot handle. Therefore, it is undermining your authority, your leadership. But ultimately, as I said, leadership, power, it's only the reverent power that matters and the expert power. You take them everywhere. One example, Jimmy Carter, as a president, he failed miserably. But look at how he led the world,
Yes.
how he changed the world, how many lives did he touch after he left office. For me, that's leadership.
That's right.
Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
So I see we're coming up to the top of the hour, as Ambassador said. So
we are at the top of the hour.
Yes, it is the top of the hour, and the anthem, is it ready?
Yes, we are ready with the anthem. And while we are playing our anthem, we encourage you to go grab a drink of water. Check on that pot that you may have on the stove simmering, waiting for the show to be over. So you
Ambassador Lisa, please don't do this to me. I have not eaten.
Neither have I.
Dr. Meng, this show is unscripted. I want you to know that. So,
Doctor, we'll be right back after the anthem. So please just take a sip of water and be back in 5 minutes.
Wait, did you say 5 minutes? Okay, well.
It's about.
No, he needs to listen to the anthem too, so he can grab his water and come listen to Ambassador Lisa's song.
Yeah, I did not mean that I should go away. Okay. Here we go.
Oh, Africa. Oh, no. Africans, Africans for Africa. 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 Africans have many bright ideas. If only you let us share. If you really want to know my history, please come, sit down, listen to my story. God gave us a wisdom. He guides our footsteps, makes us shine and transform. Hey, as one people with so many cultures, yet indeed we are one. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Let us all unite behind AfricaOnline Media Corporation. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. It's time to come together, promote awareness, progress, and solution. Hey. Africans, Africans for Africa. Africans, Africans for Africa. Africans, Africans for Africa. All Africans can rally for a common cause, to believe without judgment in what our brother does, to identify and resolve our challenges, to allow each other's ideas without regard to standards. As one people with so many cultures, yes indeed we are one. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. Let us solve all the problems plaguing our continent. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Let us empower Africans in and out of Africa. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. AfricaOnline Media Corporation, that's a good way to start. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. They have all the resources we need to benefit our society. Oh. Education for everyone. If we believe prosperity for Africans. If we believe medical facilitation for Africans. We believe. Stand up, Africa, yes, for Africa. Africa Online Media Corporation, that's a good way to start. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Africa is the cradle of civilization, the motherland. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. We were enslaved not because we were weak, but because of our hospitality. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. Jump on the Africa Online Miracle Jet, don't be left behind. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. Together we shall succeed, together we will win. Stand up, Africans, let's save Africa. We are writing our own story, the truth, and we shall tell it to the world. Stand up, Africans, for Africa. No more lies, Africans own Africa.
No more lies. Africans own Africa.
Very well. Well done. It's nice.
That song is our anthem, and it was written by our very own, Her Royal Highness, Reverend Pam, and we are so grateful that we own full rights to that song, and it is one of my favorite songs. Nia sung our topic for next week.
That would be me.
It's a reverend.
Yes, okay. So we are going to be discussing skincare next week with our very own Dr. B. Tazam Famundam. That's one of our medical squad, faithful medical squad members. So Dr. Emeng, at the end of every month, we've done this for 9.5 years, we discuss a health topic on this program. You know, like I say, 99% of it was on Facebook. We just started streaming on YouTube. I got a message on Facebook that they're trying to get, I think they're going to delete some old video. I don't know. I don't have time to save them. I hope they don't touch our videos. But we have a lot of content. And we are looking for student interns, Dr. Men. We're 501c3. So they can get service, win some help with some student interns on this program. You know, so that's what we'll be discussing next week. And in August, we're going to discuss STEM. So I'm very, very excited. You know, especially most of us Black women, we have issues with our skin. And when I came to this country, my skin was flawless. The humidity and the food and everything else on television is messed up my skin. So I can't wait to learn from Dr. B next week. And we also have our 6th annual summit and charity ball for our sister organization, Africa's Brain Bank, in New York City. And Dr. Meng is going to be speaking. He's on a panel. He's already registered. Nia Song will be honoring Mr. Songlefang Kemleke. So he just registered today. Ambassador Lisa is going to be there also, and she's going to bring about 20 people from the United Nations to be there. That her charm, she's going to use that. Ambassador Lisa, you have to fill 2 tables. And I'm hoping Dr. Crosby will have Mr. DC represented. They should at least be able to get a table. We are discussing brain drain. We need to stop. That's Africa's biggest problem today. That's what we're going to be discussing. And for the first time ever, even though I coordinate the event, I'll be delivering the keynote address because of this particular topic. And I'm an organic speaker, so you will just hear me speak. I don't know exactly what's going to come out of my mouth that day, but I'm sure the Lord will bring out whatever our people need to hear. We are going to stop this brain drain. Yesterday, we launched our STEM program. We have students from Sierra Leone, Nigeria, the Gambia, and I think the students from Cameroon were on holidays, but I just got a text. So I think by next week, we'll have students from Ghana and Cameroon. The orientation was Saturday. We are doing a makeup orientation on Thursday, and that'll be it. Without the orientation, they cannot even continue in the program. They'll have to wait for the next batch. This first batch, we are capping it at 500. the next batch will be able to take about 5,000. But if you would like to sponsor a student, it's $300 a student for the STEM program. But we want about 100 students to attend the event in New York, it's $250 for the students to attend the symposium and the gala. It's important that our young people are there because they are the future. In Lagos, we had students from University of Lagos and Yaba College of Technology, and their lives have been transformed. You will see that on our website because we depend on volunteers. In Atlanta, we also have students from the HBCUs that are there. There are 5 HBCUs in Atlanta. So I'm going to put the link to the event in New York. It's a good cause. Come and support it. For you business people, the Friday night is dedicated to the business and investors. It will be a good place for you to come and tell your friends about it. We have to support each other. So this show, it's our airtime. I know we have a lot of questions for Dr. Meng, so if we need to extend it a little bit, Anchors, we can do that. But I'm going to hand over to you, Ambassador Lisa, and I'll put the link on. Oh, Dr. Meng, please put the link about your books on the chat box and where to get it from, please. Thank you. And we need some students from Senegal to register too.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Pam. So we have been talking about servant leadership. Last week we talked about civic duty, and this week we're following up with servant leadership. Is it important? Why is it important? Is it necessary? Now, during the first half of the program, Dr. Ming told us what servant leadership was. He talked about the different styles, the different types that are a part of servant leadership. Dr. Ming, is it necessary? Do we need to have servant leaders? And why are they important?
Yes, I think that if you look at, again, using the first principle approach, where you break down anything that you try to do to is a fundamental truth. When we are leading, you are taking people somewhere. And that somewhere that you must think that they are beneficial to them. It's not you, it's not your vision, because you are providing hope. And because it is not you, it's not your journey. It is their journey. It is their aspiration, their goals. But you're putting it all together into person in a way that they cannot do it for themselves. And as Philip said, while they're being served, do they grow and become freer? This whole idea of not controlling people. If you remember, when we started defining management, they said management was 4 things. They said planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Then they realized that controlling is a bad word. They tried to change it with lead. But that's the bottom line, is I want people to be free, to be smarter, to be healthier, to grow, to become leaders. Because ultimately what we need today is that you are leading your organization, you cannot do everything. You are not even equipped or even have the competency, the knowledge to do everything. What you need is to create a platform where people can learn and grow, not for you to delegate, but for them to say, hey, I can do this. You are empowering them. And because you're trying to empower these current leaders that are controlling, they believe that by transferring power, I'm weakening myself. What they don't realize, by rising more leaders, you are empowering yourself. Look at Nelson Mandela. By giving the power at the time to Mbeki, not running for 1 term, he actually gained more power, not just for Sasa, but the entire continent, the entire world were behind him. And that's what the understanding that you are empowering people, you are developing people, and that also bring your stature. It makes you stronger. And at the end of the day, they don't care about that. But what is happening is that you are key for me is just to remember that we are just being used, I would say, understanding that we are spiritual being before being rational being, and not to be apologetic about that. For so long, mostly as African, We always believe that. I would tell people, I used to be a market analyst for General Motors, doing forecasting for the next 5-7 years. How many cars GM will sell in Africa, in the Middle East? I don't know how many cars GM can sell in the next month. Now, if you're asking me for the next 5-7 years, the first thing I'll do, I'll pray about it. I ask God to guide me. Then I don't know anything. And then whatever my intuition, then I use tool to justify it. I'm not apologetic. Being a doctor doesn't mean that. No, I prioritize my spirituality because we are spiritual being. It's a very powerful tool. And being spiritual, know that we're not in charge. Once we understand that, give us humility. And that humility is actually what is going to strengthen us as leader.
Doctor, all said and done, where does the word team fit into it all, into leadership performance? Team, T-E-A-M.
Yes. Now, you have to remember, every time that you have a vision, it is an ambition. And when we talk about ambition, we're talking about people aspiration. And it's always something challenging. And because it is so challenging that you as one person cannot do it, you need to find yourself a team. Because as I said earlier, they're talking about first among equal. Once you understand that maybe I'm the first among equal, this has become a shared leadership approach. In understanding, somebody asked me, are we born leaders? Remember, there's a school of thought that said that we are born, some people are born leaders. They have extraordinary gift. I said, we are all born leaders. The question becomes, can we unlock it and unleash it? It is within. Once we understand that, knowing that everybody in this room is a leader, the question becomes, how can we help each other? And remember the other thing about servant leadership, the healing. Why healing? To make whole. How are you going to make whole without a team? Meaning that you as a leader, you have your strengths, but you also have your shortcoming. But having a team, distributing the leadership, having been rotated, you are empowering that. Team is critical. Nowadays, one person cannot do everything because knowledge is changing regularly. You need to update yourself. But if you have so many people doing part of it and learning from each other, making whole, and it goes back to the African touch Ubuntu. I am because we are. And we are interrelated, we are interconnected, even with the environment. Team is critical.
I wish every leader in the world knows that and turns back to the people to say, please, let us do this together, not I.
Absolutely.
That's just a wish.
We, the people, have the power. I think that this misconception, the way I try to convey leadership is to bring it to a level where we all know that we are leaders. We are born leaders. But we can appoint you as first among equal. There's nothing wrong with that. Your reverence, your experience. It is okay that we need somebody, but doesn't mean that you're a chief. That's the question that we all have ourselves. Do you really want that? Or do we want to delegate that and say we don't want to deal with it? As people, let's do our job to make sure that we allow them to lead us. We give them permission to lead us. And if they forgot, we remind them.
Reverend?
Yes, a lot of people, not just in politics, but in corporations, they forget that without the people, they will have no power. You have to have, that's why I don't understand leaders that kill their people or punish their people. Because who are you going to lead? Yourself? But the one thing I want to weigh in on this servant leadership thing is when somebody is a true servant leader, they don't go out with the intention. I know Dr. Meng mentioned this, but I just feel the need to stress this. They don't set out to become a leader. They set out to serve. And just the name alone can be confusing. Servant leader, because they don't people don't, the regular mind, the mindset is not, a servant is it's submissive. It's a subordinate. It's not a leader. So just the name alone could be confusing to people. That how can a servant be a leader? But the servant leader does not set out to lead. They set out to serve. In the process of serving, then they are recognized as a leader and they are put in that position, or they are asked to be in that position. So let somebody not come out and say, oh, I'm a servant leader. There are people that call themselves servant leaders and they are nowhere near servant leaders. I know some of them. I'm not calling names or pointing fingers. But I'm saying that the fact that you say you're a servant leader doesn't mean you are a servant leader. A servant leader doesn't go around telling people they are a servant leader. You will see it, you exude that trait. So it's very, very important to keep that in mind. And even in the corporations, one of the things I am very keen on is customer service, especially among our people. Just a couple of days ago, my niece and I went into an African store. I was looking for a product. When we walked in there were two guys. There was one behind the counter and another one. They were just talking, and they were talking very loud. It actually startled me. And I thought I looked at them. They didn't say a word. They continued talking. I went and I looked for what I was trying to find. I didn't see it. They didn't ask if they could help. And I just told my niece, I said, you see, this is the problem with some of our people. He doesn't understand that without people like me working in that store, he will not have a business. And that his business is not going to last. Because if you don't even acknowledge your customers, or you don't, okay, maybe if he had helped me, I would have been able to find what I was looking for. So we walked out of there without buying jack. Nothing. Even if it was a store that did not have the product, we could have bought like some snacks or some cookies based on their attitude. But I want to take this back to the servant leadership in corporation, which I think that's the title of your book, Dr. Meng, that is servant leadership required for organizational success. I may be paraphrasing. It is required in every organization, whether you're a nonprofit, whether you're an institution of higher learning, or you are the CEO and chairperson or visionary of your company. Without it, you will not succeed. Because servant leadership also includes acknowledging people. You have to acknowledge people. First of all, you don't know the kind of baggage that person has walking into your business. And just a simple word from you. I'll give you an example. Dr. Meng, you're not at this particular, in 2023, at the National Business League 123rd anniversary. I did the opening prayer. God is my witness. I don't know what I said, but I know there was a long line of people waiting. And this particular lady, I will never forget her. I don't remember her name. Each time she wanted to talk to me, somebody was talking to me. At some point, she couldn't wait anymore. She said, please, I have to tell her something. I didn't know what she was going to say to me. She said, when I came to this conference, I was very depressed. So depressed, I had lost hope on everything. I didn't ask her what she was depressed about. She said, but you have given me hope. Your prayer gave me, and that got me emotional, because sometimes you do things or you say things that transform the lives of people and you don't know. And that is what is a servant leader should, that's the kind of impact the servant leader should have on their followers, or on the people that are listening to them, or the people that they are following. I just wanted to comment on that. I don't know if Dr. Meng wants to amplify or not, but I just wanted to weigh in on that.
Thank you. Doctor, I wanted to find out about this one, integrity. How much should it count in anyone in any position, whether it's leader or servant? Integrity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Remember, we said that when you are leading, when you say that, follow me, I lead, you're saying that people, if I would use this idea that you are the captain, of a group, you are in the middle of an ambush and they are firing, and you say to your soldiers, follow me. Why would I follow you if I don't? You must trust them with your life. People, because of trust. Remember, when we said you're trusting, you are taking chances that you might get hurt. But you said, because I trusted people, this person is not going to hurt me. And because of that, what consolidated trust, you can say that by experience, and what trust also is by association, somebody share the same faith, it must be something that bound them. And because of that, if you don't have integrity, if people discover that you are not trustworthy, Because keep in mind, you can be trustworthy and not trusted. But but if that's happened. But if you're not trustworthy, when people trust you, sooner or later, they will find out through who you are. And if they don't, they walk away. That's why I say that integrity, manipulation, we not need to make also the difference between leading and manipulating. Sometimes what I see some leader doing, they are manipulating. But when you're manipulating people, it's become very evident. And somebody asked me this question. You talked about being authentic. And they asked me, how do you become authentic? I said, always ask yourself this question. Am I being sincere? Only you can answer that. If you think that you are not being sincere, know that other people will know that you're not being sincere. Because you and I, right now, we are communicating below concepts. I'm talking to you, you're listening, but your spirit is listening to my spirit. Your soul is listening to my soul. But those are very holy, they are pure. And they can know exactly what is in our heart. That's why I was telling people it's easier to just be truthful, to be authentic with people. And again, this whole idea to want to serve, just nothing more, nothing less, just to serve, allowed you to have that higher connection, because only God can lead us. We cannot lead ourselves.
That's right.
Can I just weigh in? Let me just piggyback to what Dr. Meng just said real quick. You cannot pretend to be somebody else for long. Dr. Meng cannot be a better Asonglefan Kemleke or vice versa. I cannot be a better Ambassador Lisa or vice versa. So if you think you are fooling people, you cannot fool all the people all the time. The truth will show up. You will drop the ball somewhere. And to me, that should be very stressful, living a lie. Just be yourself. That way you don't have to remember what you said to Dr. Meng or what you said to Ambassador Lisa or Dr. Crostin or you don't have to keep track of what you said, because what you are saying is what you mean and is the truth. So it is very clear, but it's unfortunate that there are so many fake people out there. It's unbelievable. How do you explain, we're not talking marriage, but how do you explain waking up after 30 years of marriage and you don't recognize the person that you've been living with for 30 years? So back to you, uncles.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Lisa, please.
I was just going to follow up before we turn the floor over to you. My apostle always says, God anoints the real you. And you can't beat yourself being anybody other than being you. So just go ahead on and be who you are, because you were the person that was needed in that space, in that time. If you're trying to be somebody else, then the people that we're trying to minister to, that we're trying to lead, that we're trying to perfect, is not getting what they are supposed to be getting, that download that God is trying to give them through you, because you're not being the person that God made you to be. So just be yourself, because he anoints the real you.
And I just wanted to add, when we use the term God, I think that we need to clarify, because I've been around people that say they don't believe in God.
That's right.
But when I look at their action, I always laugh and chuckle to myself. They're decent human beings. They are very eager to help. They do all the godly thing. That's why there's something driving their spirit.
Yes.
Even that's why when we say God, we just have to understand that we just use the term God, but it's that higher, that whatever drives you for goodness, for me, that's God. Whenever you are rushing to help somebody, you are rushing to save somebody, you are even willing to sacrifice your life, just for the sake of helping or assisting, you are doing God's work. And God is all that goodness. That's why I don't want people to think that we are reducing the term God for those people that believe in the religion. But God here transcends all of that.
That's right.
Agreed.
Indeed, it does. Yes. At this point, Dr. Crosslin, maybe we'll start the roundup with you.
Oh, sure. So, a couple of things, Dr. Ming. 2 more A pluses across the board for you, sir. Also, I'm thinking and this is just my observation, I'm thinking you are a problem solver as well. I think that's one of your strong points. You know, for the organized
Agree.
for an organization. So, like, people would call you in to solve problems when people can't get along and all that. You're probably an excellent mediator. All that. That's another good strong point about you, and your organizational skills are off the charts, sir. You're always prepared. Um, I guess what I would say is, why does a company, an organization, are doing so well with someone like yourself, and then they go and hire a new person over the organization, and that person just gets rid of good people and just tears the organization apart? And it wouldn't matter if everybody were servant leaders. That's my question. Thank you so much.
Yes. And your question actually has been answered. If you recall, for a long time, there was in the literature that the highest, most powerful leadership model is transformational leadership. And if you remember, transformational leadership is really when you take a group of people to take them to something place higher, to help them achieve something they will never dream of. It's based on, as I said, the intellectual, the idealized influence of the leader, the inspirational motivation of the leader to allow them to really decide to give their best. But the intellectual stimulation, where you help them grow intellectually, and then the individual's consideration to maintain, to allow them to achieve greater things. For a long time, we all thought that was the highest leadership. Then we realized that these leaders are developing you, providing all the support just to achieve organizational goals. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what it is. It just stay for the organization. Now, if this you add the community as a whole, if you ask that I'm not here to serve the organization, but I'm also to help allow the people grow, you have a different approach. That's why serverless is very powerful. Because at some point, you're not going to look at what is best for the corporation. That's why they will bring these people that only have one agenda. How can we make more profit? And we are willing to help people grow, but to achieve organizational goal. The servant leader does the opposite. I'm going to help the people grow. And as they grow, they become healthier, freer, more autonomous, more independent, become a servant leader. They can not only impact the organization, but they go beyond, they can impact the community as a whole. That's why they will never do anything that will undermine the growth of their people or treat them like just another, input. They have a whole different. Servant leadership is not a leadership model. It is a philosophy. It is a mindset. You said it, sir, earlier. It is a mindset because the way that you think most of the time will affect how you feel. And how you feel will affect how you behave. But how you behave shape the relationship you build with people. And your relationship will determine your success. Because they understand that. They always try to make sure that they take into consideration the people emotion, that I am dealing with emotional being. How can I make sure that I touch into the emotion to strengthen them, not to diminish them, to empower them, to raise them, and to make them believe in themselves? Remember, he said, to become more autonomous. This weak leader want to control you. They want to be more autonomous. The strong leader, yes, they want to be more autonomous because they know this is what is best for everybody. The more leaders you have, the more leader is distributed, the better we are all off.
Dr. Meng, please, I've checked the chat box. I don't see your book information on your books. It's important. Please post it there and post the covers of the books also and where to get it from. I know they're on Amazon, so that our viewers, both on Facebook and YouTube, now and tomorrow and forever, will be able to get the books, please. And his servant leadership book, that's what we are using for our students. Thank you.
Okay, Reverend Pam, when he posts them here in Zoom, they will not be able to see them. So you're going to need to grab it and post it onto the YouTube link.
They will not?
No, they will only see they don't get to see the chat box that's going on in Zoom. They only see.
Okay, no problem. Let him put it.
Yes.
I'll put
We'll
it
do
on
it another time. We'll do it another time.
Okay, send it to me and
Yes, I will.
No, we're actually streaming live on YouTube.
We're streaming live right now. So if you post it into the chat box, she can grab it and post it onto YouTube, and then it'll be there. It will.
Okay. All right. I'll do it in the next.
Yeah. So we
5 minutes.
appreciate you.
Okay. And if you don't have it handy, you can send it to me by email,
Yes.
Meng, and I'll put it on our YouTube channel. Thank you, Ambassador Lisa.
Thank you.
That being said, Ambassador Lisa, I think it's time for you to give your last word.
Yes.
Say your word. And Doctor, please be preparing your mind for a last word. You have as much time as you need.
He's always prepared.
Word. But for now, we're going around the table to get individual points of view, individual last words before we come to you. Ambassador Lisa.
So we need you to do two things. We need you to be grabbing those links, putting them in the chat box, and preparing your final thought for the end of the program. So thank you, Professor Nia-san. So this has been a very interesting topic. I'm very grateful that I was here for the servant leader. I understand servant leaders in the spiritual world. I really wasn't very clear about servant leaders in the corporate or the natural world. So I thank you, Dr. Meng, for bringing your insight and your expertise into this subject and enlightening a whole lot of us. We need to find out what our leadership style is so that we can be more effective at it. We're probably doing a very good job at it. We just don't know what it's called. And sometimes we do need to put labels on things that we're doing so that we can understand better what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. So I thank him for sharing today. And while I'm at it, I want to encourage you to know that we here at Africa Online are here every Sunday from 4 to 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, talking about a variety of topics that are of interest and are necessary to our children and our brothers and sisters on the continent and to those of us here in the diaspora. So join us. We're streaming live. If we're not streaming live, then we're uploading to YouTube and we're uploading to Facebook. So we encourage you to go there, like and share our pages, like, share, and comment and subscribe so that you will always be informed. Because Sunday afternoon may not be a good time for you to sit down and take this hour and a half out, but you can always go back and watch the show later. And hopefully we have shared something that is beneficial to you, your life, your family, and the society around you. Thank you again for sharing with us today. Professor Nia-san, the floor is yours.
Your Highness, your last word as we wrap up.
Yes, on behalf of Africa Online Media Corporation, I truly want to thank Dr. Abdullah Meng. You are a gift to Africa. You are a gift to mankind. Thank you so much for all you do. And this will not be your last time coming. It's your first time coming to this program, but it will not be your last time because you can talk on a variety of topics. When we do tackle cultural intelligence, we're going to bring you on. I think we're going to do both emotional intelligence and cultural intelligence in one program. So we'll be calling on you, but thank you so much. I want to encourage our viewers, please check out his book, and for those of you who have organizations, book him to come and speak and pay him. We are not paying him because we don't have the money to pay him, but if we did, we will pay him. So don't ask him to come and do it for free. Dr. Meng, thank you so much for everything that you do. And I just want to encourage all the leaders that are out there, from political leaders to religious leaders to all kinds of leaders. Look yourself in the mirror today. Ask yourself, are you really putting the people first? If you have to think or pray and fast before answering that question, the answer is no. So I want you to take some lessons from this program today and do right by your people. Without them, you are no leader and you are nothing without them. If you need a reminder, let this program be a reminder to you. Thank you.
Dr. Meng, now we come to you, our main speaker. Please, your last word as we wrap up the show today.
Again, thank you so much. And this is truly this is a privilege and honor to be in this setting because I know that I'm amongst servant leaders. I've known Reverend Palm. We work together with, the work of mayors, and she's a servant leader. I see what she does, very compassionate, very giving, and that coming here is truly an honor and a privilege. I just wanted to mention something that when it's come to discovering your style, we tend to believe that leaders have a style. Now, there was at the beginning, you did have, definitely three major school of thought in terms of, a democratical leadership approach, autocratic, and what they call laissez-faire, laissez-aller. But then we realize that truly, leadership is not about that. It's not about one style. What I usually encourage the student, and when I teach the class, what we start at the beginning is allow them to define it and find a leader. And every time that we look at a model, we talk about transaction, and I ask them, can you tell me how Mandela displayed the characteristic for transactional? When we do transformational, I ask the same question. Can you tell me how Nelson Mandela displayed transformational? When we talk about ethical, what I was setting them up in the end is to realize that a leader need and to have various style. However, the leader might have a dominant style. Now, once you understand your dominant style, and when you're in a situation where your dominant style might not be effective, that's where the awareness becomes important. You now checking on yourself, oh, I tend to be, really, I'm a servant leader, I tend to be sometimes transactional, but in this case, I have to be aware of that, not to let myself be taken, because it will undermine what I'm trying to do. When you tend to be very vulnerable, understand in certain setting, showing vulnerability might undermine. It is a very difficult balancing act. It is just like you are making your food or you're making a drink. You have all your various ingredients. Sometimes you might not have all you need. That's when you're adapting. Sometimes you're looking at the people you are serving it or the time of the day you're serving it. If somebody likes something spicy, what you do, you are adding and removing. Know that your leadership ultimately is borrowing from all these different styles, but trying to see who you're leading, and who are those people, and what are their aspirations, what are their limits, what are their strengths, and trying to make adjustment. It is a very difficult exercise. It's not one size should fit all. You have to be able to innovate yourself. You have to be able to sometimes even surprise yourself. And what it does is when you talk about agility, adaptability, but there's one thing that I always remind people. Sometimes you need to pivot. And how do you pivot? Because sometimes you have to do 360 degrees. Because where you are heading was the right thing. But when you get to this position where you really don't know what to do, I keep telling people, remember what Christ did. We know Christ doesn't have, but when he was asked this question about the lady that they said was an adulterer, they said, the book said, she should be stoned to death. That's what he said. Now, he knows that. But if I said yes, it would have undermined what he's trying to teach. If you had said no, it will undermine. That was a very delicate, but what did Christ do? He went down and started writing on the sand. That's what we call withdrawal. When you are in those moments where it is very difficult, withdraw and try to get deep inside, knowing that you are, before anything else, a spiritual being. It is those moments of withdrawal that you start uncovering. Sometimes you surprise yourself. Many of you have made decisions, and you come to yourself later on, 10 years later, how did I make that decision? Always trust yourself. We must know that within ourselves, we are powerful beyond measure. But do we need some time to hide it or to lower it? No, bring up everybody. Understanding that it is a very challenging journey, but in the end, it is very rewarding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please
Awesome.
Whatever we do, however we do it, when you face that challenge, that question, should we stone her or not? Take a deep breath before you answer. Thank you all very much. We will be back next Sunday and we'll be talking about skincare. After caring about our minds, now we have to care about this house in which we live, because this is the only house in which we actually live. Thank you all very much. Have a good week and please stay blessed.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye.
I was unmuted. Thank you, guys.